Welcome to Crime Files TikTok Compilations, the vault of real horror, where murder isn't fiction and the footage never lies. In this collection, we unearth chilling clips, haunting case files, and real-life moments that expose the darkest corners of the human mind. What you're about to witness is raw, unsettling, and unforgettable. These aren't stories, they're warnings.
Ring video shows a woman carry what appears to be a rug and plastic bags down the hall, and it appears to be 42-year-old Eileen Vargas Hidnarte.
Ma'am, you were arrested for aggravated battery and attempted tampering with physical evidence.
Hidnarte appeared in front of a judge after being accused of hitting her boyfriend over the head with a glass bottle around 5 a.m. Thursday. In this Hialeah apartment complex, police say they found a man in the staircase covered in blood. A neighbor who didn't want to show his face says he heard the man's cries for help. This neighbor says he could hear the man saying not to let him die, and he didn't feel well. Hidnarte's arrest records show officers followed the blood trail from the staircase to the couple's apartment.
Inside the apartment, the first things officers noticed was a strong smell of Clorox. She continued to change her story, and they also started to notice glass all over the floor, as well as a mop and a bucket.
And she was wiping up the blood drops on the floor.
Officials say the couple lived at the apartment together for more than a year, and it was a fight that fueled the violence. The victim was taken to Ryder Trauma Center, where he told first responders she threatened to kill him if she was arrested. Hidnarte can be seen crying in front of the judge.
New police body camera video shows arrests in the murder case of an 11-year-old girl known as Mimi. This is video of her mother's arrest 4 days after the girl's remains were found in a container behind an abandoned property last month. The mother says nothing to officers when they handcuffed her at her house. She later admitted to police that her and her ex-boyfriend stopped feeding the girl 2 weeks before she died, according to an arrest warrant. The mother's sister, Jacqueline Garcia, was also arrested that day. She appeared confused when officers put handcuffs on her.
Why?
Put your hands behind your back, your underwear.
For what? Car.
We'll explain to you.
Can you grab my phone?
She later told police that her niece was deprived of food and restrained with zip ties, but she never called police. The mother's ex-boyfriend, Jonathan Nanita, was arrested after a struggle with police. When talking about the scuffle, you can hear Nanita say he was going to turn himself in and that he didn't do anything to quote that girl.
I didn't have to do that.
Turn yourself in.
You guys didn't have to do any of that.
Wait for that. You turned yourself in a while ago.
I was gonna say I was. You guys didn't have to do any of that, man. I didn't even do that to that girl, bro.
Those 3 suspects are due back in court on Friday, November 14th, and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner ruled her cause of death as fatal child abuse with starvation.
17-year-old Tristan Johnson was a young man with plans and the energy and determination to make them come true, says his godfather, Davian Morgan. Pictures from Tristan's life, his years at Ingenuity Prep public charter school in the district, and then at Dr. Henry A. Wise High School in Prince George's County fill his phone.
And he was very outgoing. So even if you didn't know him, you knew of him, and he was going to eventually find his way to introduce you to himself.
Family members know Tristan was with some friends around 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon when he was shot and killed in the 1900 block of C Street Southeast, not far from the Stadium Armory metro station. D.C. police sources familiar with the investigation say the suspects may have been attempting to rob the 17-year-old of his jacket. In his grief, Morgan says he has wondered about those thousands of federal officers and National Guard troops deployed to fight crime in the district.
I think that is probably one of the questions right now that I know his mother is asking herself over and over and over again, of all places for it to happen in broad daylight.
We can't link to the table.
I can verify.
609, go ahead.
Please. I never once doubted that it was her.
If anyone goes to the tape without permission, they immediately go to jail. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry.
Can you tell him we're here?
Of course, of course. Okay.
I felt like I needed to see her because she had been out there for 5 days without me. And I just needed to be with her, and they wouldn't let me.
Do I need to wait before I make a phone
She needed me, but I wasn't there.
My mom and I both realized that it was probably her in there, and that we would never be able to hold her and hug her again. My mom started to chase the van.
I just followed it down the road just as fast as I could, and somebody hollered at me and asked me what I was doing, and I said, my baby's in that van.
A 33-year-old Bronx man was among 4 killed in a triple murder-suicide, leaving 2 young children without their father. Andrew Reynoso had been dating 26-year-old Kiana Stooks for a few months when he visited her family's Castle Hill apartment on November 5th. Police say her father, 44-year-old Kasim Stooks, killed Kiana, his 75-year-old mother Teresa Stooks, and Reynoso before taking his own life. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, said Reynoso's ex, mother of his 2 sons. Investigators say Kasim, with a history of mental illness and substance abuse, wandered the building armed, telling neighbors, "My family is snitching on me." He was due in court that day for a gun-related case prosecutors were about to dismiss. Reynoso's family described him as hardworking, quiet, and devoted to his children, ages 4 and 6, with weekend plans to take them out. Police found Reynoso near the apartment door, suggesting he was shot last while trying to escape. "No motive can explain this senseless loss," his ex said. "You took him from our kids. That's unforgivable."
We now know more about what happened to Kanaya Jennings and what leading up to her death. I want to preface this by saying that if you know or love Kanaya, or if you have been a victim of violent rape, either reconsider watching this or prepare yourself. 18-year-old Blake Patrick was charged with accessory to murder, rape, and kidnapping. Has spoken. Court documents say that 34-year-old Kevin Peoples and Blake Patrick drove to Porterville to go pick up Kanaya. After picking her up, they drove back to Haytime, Missouri, where Kevin Peoples was. Blake told investigators that he and Kenan were having sex with Kanaya when Kenan put socks in Kanaya's mouth. After this, Blake Patrick describes Kanaya as being tied up with a blanket put over her head. Then they put Kanaya in the back seat of a truck. He drove the Nissan Altima Frontier back to Portageville, Missouri. They stopped at a Pilot, where Blake Patrick took Kanaya's phone and sent himself $20 from her Cash App. They used it to pump their gas and then they left. They drove back to near her home, left her phone on the ground, and then drove back to Haytime, Missouri with her still in the vehicle, tied up with a blanket over her head. Also now know that Donald Peoples, the brother of Kenan Peoples, was in the home when the murder happened. Blake Patrick says when they got back to Haytime, Donald Peoples was on the couch. Blake Patrick also says when they got back, Kenan took Kanaya back to a bedroom and began raping. He says during that time, Kanaya was still alive, but in bad shape. This is when Blake says he left and left to Harrisburg, Arkansas, where he left the vehicle at a sign. Investigators say by the morning after she was missing on November 4th, Kanaya's body had still not been moved from Kenan's home. Kenan got a ride away from the house around 8 to 8:30 a.m. He returned back to the home around 10 a.m. in a maroon van. This van actually belonged to a transportation company, and it has surveillance inside. But the thing is, Peoples had disabled that surveillance system from 9:50 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Authorities say during that time is when they believe Kanaya Jennings' body was transported from the home to the site where he was, and they found it in his house.
I cannot comprehend being able to do this to a young woman. I know this girl must have thought that. This girl must have been pleading if she was in bad shape. How you could ever let someone suffer for a period of time like that by your own hand, under you.
it requires a certain level of detachment from what it is in your mind that makes life good, your humanity. But the thing is, men have been doing this to women for how long? Since the dawn of time. So I have to say that means that this was an act of humanity. This is something that men do. The causes and the roots of what can cause somebody to do that to such a beautiful young girl with her whole life ahead of her. They have to be investigated, they have to be talked about, and they have to be addressed. To the men out there who understand that pure masculinity is the act of protecting women and uplifting them and empowering them to be people in this world, not simply sexual objects for your gratification. You have to take it into your hands to teach your sons, brothers, and your friends that same value. I don't know about the other women around me, but me personally, I'm done simply telling women how to protect themselves when things like this happen. We need to be coming to y'all, because at the end of the day, this happens too often.
A 47-year-old mother of four was brutally stabbed to death inside her Harlem apartment building early Monday morning, allegedly by her ex-boyfriend, who police say waited for hours to ambush her. The victim, identified by family as Carmen Yadira Lopez, was attacked in the hallway of her building on West 129th Street just after 4:20 a.m. Surveillance audio captured Carmen pleading, "Louis, stop," as she was stabbed repeatedly in the face, head, and neck. A building porter discovered her collapsed on the third-floor landing, still holding her keys, and called 911. She was rushed to Mount Sinai Morningside but could not be saved. Investigators believe the suspect, described as her ex-partner, sat waiting in the stairwell for nearly 2 hours before the attack. A person of interest was taken into custody later in the day, but police say charges are still pending. Family members describe Carmen as a devoted mother who lived with her two youngest children and her mother in the building. Neighbors say the building has always been quiet, calling the killing heartbreaking and shocking.
This man took 2 kids to McDonald's after he murdered their parents.
What's happened today? Which working out what's going on?
2 people dead. I think it's 2 people dead.
Derek Martin killed Chloe and Josh Bashford. Martin confessed he just flipped over a row about money with Chloe whilst he had been cleaning a window at her house. After he killed the couple, he took their kids to Costa and McDonald's before handing himself in to the police.
On the morning of August 26, 2015, a TV journalist and her cameraman were murdered by a gunman live on air. This is the tragic story of the murders of Allison Parker and Adam Ward. So Allison Parker and Adam Ward were employees of the CBS affiliate WDBJ in Roanoke, Virginia. They had both been working for the news station for a number of years, and tragically, Adam Ward actually graduated from Virginia Tech. If you don't remember, Virginia Tech was the site of one of the largest school shootings in American history. On that morning, Allison and Adam were covering a story about the 50th anniversary of a lake. At the time, they were interviewing a woman named Vicki Gardner talking about the upcoming plans for celebration. As Allison was conducting the interview, though, a man approached from behind. This man quickly brandished a pistol, and in the actual news footage, you can hear the sound of about 8 shots firing, followed by Allison screaming and the camera shot going dead. They then cut back to the actual people in the studio, and they were confused. They said, "Oh, we don't know what that was. Maybe it was a car backfiring or some shots fired in the background, but we'll get back to them in a second." What they didn't know, though, was that when Adam Ward dropped the camera, they caught this image of the shooter. And shockingly, people knew who he was. This is Vester Lee Flanagan II, the murderer behind these atrocious murders, and he himself was a TV reporter. Vester Flanagan had actually been employed by the same TV station that Allison and Adam worked at, even though when he was hired, he decided to go by the professional name of Bryce Williams. In the past, he had been involved with lawsuits with other broadcasting agencies, and people who had worked with Vester in the past knew him to be a volatile and somewhat dangerous individual. And that led to the year 2013 when Vester was fired from the news station that Allison and Adam worked at. He had been there less than a year, but other employees reported feeling extremely uncomfortable around him. On the day that he was fired, Vester didn't take the news so well, and when he was told he was being let go, he lashed out at employees and got violent. The police then had to escort Vester out of the building, and it's been reported that future victim Adam Ward actually videotaped this whole thing going down, and that later in the day, Adam and Vester got into a heated argument. So back to the shooting. After that eerie footage was broadcast, people began to worry about Allison and Adam. And when the police were called to the scene, they discovered that they both were dead. Vicky Gardner, the woman that was interviewed, was actually alive, and she was able to relate everything that had happened to the police. Like I said, when people from the news station went back and looked through that live broadcast footage, they recognized the man as Vester Flanagan. And thus, a massive statewide manhunt began for this guy. Authorities were also able to tell that he was the shooter because he had uploaded that eerie first-person perspective clip of him committing the murders to his Facebook at around 11 a.m. that morning. So the police tracked Vester down, they found the rental car that he had rented, and after a high-speed pursuit, he took his own life in the vehicle. Vester, before his death, had actually sent a letter to the news station, and in the letter, he talked about how he was sick of racial discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace. He felt that he was so angry from the Charleston church shooting that he wanted to do something, and he even claimed that he admired people like Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris from Columbine. So obviously, this guy was messed up in the head. He was a disgruntled ex-employee who was fed up with what he saw as the ways of the world, and that led him to commit an atrocious act of violence. Now, I don't recommend you looking up the footage of this happening, but it is out there, and the news stations actually posted some of this back in the day when it all went down. Rest in peace to Allison Parker and Adam Ward, obviously, and I think that this is going to go down in history as one of the strangest murders to ever happen in America.
A 16-year-old girl was scared to death by her friends on Halloween night, and the court ordered those responsible to pay only $20,000 in damages. That night, 16-year-old Claire Bennett was home alone watching TV. The doorbell suddenly rang. She went to open the door, and several figures dressed as ghosts and monsters appeared. Claire froze. Before she could react, she collapsed to the floor. It turned out those friends just wanted to give her a Halloween surprise. But they didn't know Claire had a congenital heart condition, and the sudden scare triggered cardiac arrest. What's worse, when Claire went down, these 15-year-old friends thought she was playing along and laughed even harder. Instead of helping, they propped her up in a chair and kept taking pictures for fun. Only when she was completely unresponsive did they panic and call 911. By then it was too late. Claire never woke up. Her grieving mother took these so-called friends to court. However, the court ruled it was a prank by minors, not intentional harm, and awarded only $20,000 in compensation. The decision has stirred major controversy. What do you think? Was this an accident or a murder that's being ignored?
Every clip you watched is more than just a story. It's a chilling reminder that real life can be darker than fiction. If these crimes shook you, disturbed you, or left you with questions, don't stay silent. Hit that subscribe button to join a community that refuses to forget. Like this video to keep these stories alive. Share it to spread awareness, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Who do you think was really behind it, or what part shocked you most?